If you are ready for an amazing transformational experience, then you need to stay tuned for this next hour for a master's practice with Dr. Aisha Hogan. She is a leading specialist in holistic methodologies and the creator of a powerful integrative technique called Enhanced Energy Communication, a master clinical and metaphysical hypnotherapist, a well-respected author, a master of the mind, and highly sought international speaker. Get ready for a major breakthrough. And now, your soul guru, holistic transformational specialist, and host of a master's practice, Dr. Aisha Hogan.
Hi there, and welcome to a special edition of A Master's Practice. I'm Dr. Reverend Aisha Hogan, and I am thrilled to bring to you this special series called Lighting Up the Devil. So let me set the scene for you. The premise of this series is to understand the function of the devil in our lives, aka the inner critic, the ego, the voice in our heads, the voice of knowledge as referred to by author Don Miguel Ruiz. Okay, so let me get back to setting the scene for you. So I'm going to ask you to let your imagination go as I tell you how I came to be able to interview the devil. In my travels, I went on an excursion in Turkey. One of those excursions, I found a box in which there was a talisman shaped like a heart, and it had all these gems all over it. So I don't know if you can imagine that, but it was like this solid red heart, and it had all these gems on it. And also in the box there was this old scroll. As I opened the scroll and read what was written on it, it was this old dialect of the Turkish language. And as I transcribed the scroll with my limited fluency of the Turkish language, I came to understand that with this talisman, I could actually communicate with what some may call the devil. And that the devil must respond to me in truth, whether he wants to or not. And as long as I have this talisman, he has no choice but to respond to me and answer every single question I ask. Wow, right? So I decided that I would set up this interview with the devil. So since I didn't want to jump in unprepared, I wanted to do some research. And so I read some books from Napoleon Hill, and I had a pretty good knowledge of the inner critic, the ego, from all of my trainings and my certifications, and knowing that I work with that voice in our heads all the time. But I wanted to really I wanted to delve deeper. So I read these books and I researched these books from Napoleon Hill, Don Miguel Ruiz, some other authors, where they really just focused on this actual entity that we call the devil, the inner critic, the voice in our heads, the ego. So now I'm ready. Talisman in hand. I welcome you now to the first episode of Lighting Up the Devil, a special edition of A Master's Practice. I'm Dr. Reverend Aisha Hogan, and I am super excited to introduce you now to the devil. All right, well, devil, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, and I'm really happy to have you here. What do I call you?
Well, I'm not exactly happy to be here, but I guess I'm here.
Wait a second. I thought the devil was a male.
Of course, you would think the devil was a male. I don't know why this is a shock to folks, but the devil can be anything. Anyone, any atom, any energy, any spirit. So right now I'm female. You're just going to have to get over that one.
Okay. Just a little bit shocking. Not what I expected, but I think I'm going to hear a lot of things that I'm not going to be expecting. So once again, what can I call you?
Well, we've already established that yes, right now I'm female. So today for the purposes of our interview, you can call me your queen.
You want me to call you what?
Queen.
You want me to call you like my queen?
Yes.
All right.
Is that shocking? Like, what's...
A little, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead with this. We're going to go ahead with my queen just because I want to get this interview going. And I guess because I'm just sort of beyond, I think I'm beyond the control of the inner critic. So this is just a little bit of a shocker for me. That's okay. Let's just go ahead with this. So, how much of the population... No, let me back up for a second. I have so many questions. They're just coming out all over the place in my mind. So let me just back up for a second. What do you look like and where do you live? I mean, this is the stuff that people want to know, right? So what do you look like? If people could see you, how are they going to recognize you? Or are you like with the horns and the tail?
The horns and the tail. You know, tell me something that I haven't already heard before. I mean, what is it with you humans and having this big picture of this ugly red cartoonized or weird, you know, Hollywood devil with the long tail and the disgusting horns? No. That being said, if that's what does it for you, then sure, I'll be your horn red tail devil. Absolutely. But really, I'm whatever I need to be for each and every person. Sometimes I am that image. If that's what you need, if that's what I need, then that's great. I can be a feeling. I can be energy. I can be any type of sensation that you need me to be. I can be the catching of fabric high up on a thigh. I can be that anticipation before you click purchase on your online screen. I can be anything at any time. In terms of where I live, well, that's just it too. I live everywhere. I live in you, in your neighbor, in your dog. I am everywhere at all times. This conception of heaven and hell, where I reside in hell, no. That's maybe where I'm contained to make sense for your brain. But with all due respect, that's nothing. And frankly, beyond. Mm-hmm.
All right, so no fire and brimstone. I'm not that entirely surprised by that. But just for the sake of our listeners here, so basically you are that voice. Is that what you're saying? You're the voice in all of our minds. That voice that we hear talking to us that's constantly telling us and judging us what we can and can't do.
Absolutely. And I'm very busy because I love what I do, and frankly, I do it all the time. So absolutely, I am that voice. I am with you all the time, whether you like it or not. I'm there.
Okay. So you say you're very busy. So what does that mean? Like, what does that look like, busy? Like, are you in everyone's mind? Is it just you? Is there more versions of you? I mean, I think of the universe and I'm thinking of this one higher spirit that's kind of taking care of everything. Is it just you and some friends like you that are handling everybody around the world? Or how is this working?
In essence, yes, it's me. It's my energy. But I use a lot of tricks and tools to basically get my job done when I'm, busy with everyone else in the world. But yes, my energy, my essence, me, in other words, absolutely. They live in you. They live in that man that just walked across the street walking his dog. He's a basket case, let me tell you. But I'm all over the place. This higher power business, sure, but that's a whole other story.
So what do you mean that's another story? So, okay, so we know that Source lives in every cell of our body. We know that Source created the whole universe. We know this, right? So are you saying that Source is in charge of the universe and is that voice, that quiet feeling that we have in our gut, and you just happen to reside in everybody else's head? Or are you, I don't know. I'm a little bit confused as to where you are right now.
Absolutely. And I think to conceptualize it, it's best to think of me as part of that source, part of that higher power. because you can't
What?
have one without the other.
What are you saying? You're part of God? You're part, well, you know, what some people call God, or some people call Allah, Buddha, like all these different names that we have for this higher power. Like, you are part of Source?
Well, I'm not, you know, that offends me to be associated with those, but I'm not even going to name them. But essentially, yes, you can't have one without the other. You can't have light without the dark. I'm not part of them per se, but the energy that makes up that feeling inside you, yes or no, right or wrong, well, I'm the wrong baby.
All right. Well, that makes sense when you think of it more of on a science level. I mean, there has, or even on a spiritual level, for every yin there's a yang, for every left there's a right. So, okay, I'm getting that. I'm getting what you're saying here. I guess just hearing it in this way is sort of putting it into a different, I don't know, reframing it for me, like in a different way. So, interesting. Now, a lot of people write about you. There's a lot of authors that write about you. There's Napoleon Hill, there's The Untethered Soul, there's Don Miguel Ruiz. There's all these different aspects of who you are. In fact, Don Miguel Ruiz refers to you as the voice of knowledge. But to me, you know, I'm working with my clients all day and I'm thinking what you're giving them is not knowledge. They're focusing on what they're not. They're not focusing on who they are. And the fact that people go through their entire lives never knowing who they are. How is it that you can talk over the source?
Well,
their goodness.
Everyone makes their choices, Aisha. Everyone, you know, they're in charge of their life. Just because they're listening to me being a little bit louder, well, frankly, that's on them. I don't necessarily talk over the source, but I use my tricks and tools to make what I have to say very intense. So perhaps I'm not necessarily talking over the good. I'm not talking over or taking away from who someone needs to become or who they really are. I just have more interesting things to focus on, perhaps.
I find it really, and just an observation right now as I'm thinking through this, and I find it really almost like Source has a handicap here, and I want to understand how that is even allowed, because you have a voice. We can hear you. You speak in any language that is in anyone's, like whatever they consider their mother tongue. Source, however, doesn't speak in the language. Source is that feeling in our gut. It's that intuition. It's that, I call it our good emotions. It's the one that gives us that guidance that says, do this, turn left, you know, and it's quiet. You're just so loud. Like, it's so quiet. Why you gotta be so loud?
Well, I like being loud, number one. I mean, what fun is it if you can't strut your stuff and play the game right? That's, you know, the first thing. But the other is that maybe I am just emotions. Instead of doing the right thing, quote unquote, I'm do the fun thing. Make that purchase. Go into that bar. But the way you feel it just resonates a little bit louder, and therefore I am perceived to have a louder voice in this source business. But that's up to you. That's up to every single human.
So how much of the population do you think you control at this time?
Oh, hands down, 98%.
98%?
Yeah, it's easy. I know it.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people. That's everyone. Are you telling me that only 2% of the population of the entire world can function without you?
Thank you for noticing the size. And yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm not digging those numbers. I have to be honest with you. Do you think, and this has kind of just popped into my head right now without you, do you think that, you know, if we listened to our energy all the time, we actually wouldn't probably make a lot of mistakes?
We wouldn't make a lot of errors because energy, like when I talk energy, I'm talking source. Sorry to offend. So when we're talking about source here, we wouldn't do a lot of things wrong because generally it's there for our highest and best and to help us get through our life and towards our lessons. Now, I also know that, you know, in this day and age, we are living 50 times more experiences than our ancestors ever did. Do you think that since from our ancestors to here, like, have you evolved with social media, with all these different things of people telling us how we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to look like and all these different things that are happening out there? Do you feel that you've evolved from what your original purpose was?
From my original purpose, no. My purpose has always been the same. And if you want to throw it way back to biblical times, like we're talking Adam and Eve throwback, no. My purpose has always been eat the apple, give in, for sure. Have I evolved? Absolutely. I use basically the same tricks and tools in essence, but they're easier to use in this day and age. It's great. It's great for me. Yeah, not so great for whatever my opponent is, but it's great for me.
Interesting. So at what point do you jump into the mind of a human? Are you born with them? Like, at what time do you jump in?
I don't know if I want to tell you the time. Like, I don't want you to know really where I'm at. I prefer to just, keep it loose. Yeah.
Okay, well, here's the keep it loose part. I have the talisman. And actually, you don't get to have that option, remember? So you actually have to tell me. You have to answer me. You have to answer me. Sorry, it's just the way it goes. So when do you occupy the minds of humans?
Fine. Well, yes, it's in utero. It's from the beginning of a consciousness. I can be in there. And I'm not in there as strongly as I am when a human is born or starts to be given choice or is able to start thinking, not necessarily for themselves, because when you're a child, you don't really think for yourself, and that's a real bonus for me, let me tell you. But we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. But yes, I'm in every mind all the time, and it just depends on when someone is confronted with the choice between doing this or doing that I can really take over and start to have some fun.
Okay. So my next question, just before the break here, and I'm going to give you some time to actually put it together in your mind, is at what point... Sorry, that's not the question. The question is, how do you gain control of their minds? That's the question. But we're going to come back to that
right after this break. Stay with me, Dr. Aisha Hogan, with our special series of Lighting Up the Devil on a Master's Practice.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. Om Times, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Are you ready to live your life depression-free? Are you having thoughts of ending things? Wondering what life would be like without chronic pain? How about no longer suffering the effects of trauma and PTSD? Are you tired of having your credibility questioned because you look fine and no one understands that you are struggling with an invisible disorder? Hi, I'm Dr. Aisha Hogan, and I'm a holistic transformation specialist. I work with clients from all over the world to aid them in eliminating, that's right, you heard me, eliminating their current struggles and challenges. I don't work with symptoms. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. I'm all about root cause and all the levels of you, as each one of us is unique. Ready to transform your life for good? To move into the best version of yourself and reach your unlimited potential? Then book your complimentary 1-hour online consultation with me by going to www.aishahogan.com. That's AYSE Hogan.com. And it will take you right to my clinic, the Chakra House of Healing. I look forward to meeting you there.
I am Fidel Nshambo. I was born in a city called the Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America, and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Lighting Up the Devil, a special series of A Master's Practice with me, Dr. Aisha Hogan. Remember to join us every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And today, my special guest is, well, the devil, who would like me to address her as my queen. So for those of you that are just joining us.
Now, I asked you something before the break, my queen. I asked you something before the break, and that was about how you control the minds. But I just want to back up for one more second and go back to what we were talking about before, where I asked you, do you think that why do you have a voice and source isn't? It's just a feeling, right? So now, as we were on break, I started kind of thinking that maybe, are you there to actually help us to overcome you so we can actually learn our lessons and get to our purpose?
Well, I'm not here to help you. Like, it's not fun for me, but I suppose if you're going to think about it in that way, I mean, for someone like you, yes, who's enlightened, who says I'm not around you very much, if at all, which I don't really know, but I do know. Sometimes I'm there, I think. But, yeah, if a person is going to overcome my loudness, as you said before the break, or make the choice based on the feeling that's going to lead to them living their best life or becoming who they are or who they're supposed to be, yes, you do have to overcome the darkness to step into that light. And if you want to get all positive, I suppose, then yes, it's about learning those lessons and growing and developing. But I'm going to fight hard to not let you do that. So I'm not a helper. I'm not your buddy, okay? Like, I'm not friends with you. I'm there to play my own game and to keep you on my side.
Okay. All right, we're going to come back to this because I find this really interesting. Now, this is really getting interesting, and I need to gather my thoughts about this. So, you say you have some tricks in being able to gain control of the mind, of our minds. So, what are some of those tricks, do you think?
Well, I don't think, number one. I know. So, this think business, like, I know my own stuff, all right? I've been doing this for a long time. Certainly longer than you've been on the earth for. So I know my own stuff. Anyway, that aside, my tricks I've got a few really good ones. I don't want to brag. Well, I do. Who's kidding who? I want to brag a lot, but I don't really want to tell you about them. That flipping talisman you have. So I'll give you one. All right? And the trick I use is fear. And it works aces.
Okay, so fear. Interesting because knowing that you know what kind of work I do, I mean, lots of things are fear with a mask, right? Our jealousy is fear with a mask. Sadness is fear with a mask. Every negative emotion pretty much that we have is fear with a mask. So there's a lot of availability of fears out there. I mean, like, it's not fear of spiders, is it? So what fears are you using?
Well, that's just it. I use them all. That's what's so great for me.
No, I realize that you're not answering my question once again. So, you're always trying to evade me, but here's the thing. What I'm saying is you got to have some favorites. We've all got some favorites of things that we like the best. Even if we do a lot of different things, we have some things that we like the best. So there must be some fears that you use the most that are more powerful than others.
Well, yes. Yes, there are. Humans are afraid of everything, so it's very easy. But for the purposes of this talisman business, fear of dying is quite popular with you humans. You know you're going to die. You know you're mortal. You're only on this earth for maybe a short time or a long time or whatever it is, but there's just, it's just time. Arguably, it's borrowed time because you're all going to die. So, but you're all very afraid of this dying business. And I really hone in on that. It's great. Keep being afraid.
Okay, so fear of dying. So what happens when people start not being afraid? And myself, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not even afraid when other people die. Because to me, now it looks like it's a transition. They get to go somewhere peaceful. They get to go to a new adventure, start a new life, do something different out of this body, having some freedom. They've achieved their path and their purpose clearly, don't you think?
Well, I don't think. I know that that's not really how most people think, hence the 98%. Good for you that you think that, you die and you move on and, boring. No. What goes on in most people's mind is what happens, yes, when you die, or how you might die. So it could be a disease, it could be infection, what goes on after. If that's the brimstone, fire, and boring business of what you conceptualize as hell in the movies, then maybe that's what happens when you die. And people are really afraid of that. And I eat it up. All I have to do is plant a few small seeds of fear of dying, and it really takes off. Has anyone ever told you that they think they have something big going on with them health-wise? That they've Googled causes of cancer, or they have a little freckle or a mole on them, and all of a sudden, it's for sure cancer? Well, it could be, but that's just the beauty of it. All of a sudden, that little bit of fear becomes very escalated, and it's amazing. And this leaving your body, new adventure, journey crap, no, they're not focused on that. They're focused on their fear.
All right. I have a lot to say about that, but this episode's only an hour long. Well, we're going to get back to some of these. So what's another fear that you use?
You're really going to hammer this home. You're on it. All right, fine. I'll give you another. Fear of poverty is something that I use as well. Humans are pretty obsessed with having a certain degree of wealth. We'll just call it wealth.
All right. I have to agree with you. That is a big, that scarcity mindset. Okay. So just before we go on to the next fear here, now I'm going to say something else to you. So what are you saying, that you are part of, well, I guess you would be, the part of law of attraction? Now I kind of know the answer to this question, but I am putting it out there for the listeners. So you're saying that you are part of law of attraction. So if these people have the scarcity mindset, then it's you that's bringing them making their fears come true, so to speak?
Well, yeah, I'll take credit for sure. I'll take credit all day. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, it's not it's not necessarily me that's doing that though. I've planted the fear. I've laid the groundwork. So yeah, it's my work, but it's you who are bringing those to you. Absolutely, you attract what you give off, and if you're always afraid of this, that, or the other, it's just gonna keep coming back to you all the time.
So what have you in, the universe, we always say the universe is abundant. It's got everything in it. Anything that we think we get. So whether we think something good or we think something bad, we get this thing that we're asking for. So what, like, did you, and for the sake of, I'm going to say Source. You and Source have gotten together and said, hey, let's agree on this one thing. And we're going to have this like concierge service. So every time somebody asks for something, we're going to make sure that it gets delivered to their door. Like, is this like an agreement between the two of you, or is just, where are these things coming from? Yes, we put thoughts out there, but then somebody has to create, or, you understand what I'm trying to say here? I don't have the right words. I don't think I have the right words. This thing has to be created or delivered. Somebody has to deliver it.
Like Amazon, is that what we're getting at here? Like you order something and it shows up at your door?
Well, essentially that's what's happening, isn't it? Like, our life, our door, the door of our life, basically. I'm trying to make it relatable here.
Well, number one, Amazon's hilarious. You humans really outdid yourself with that one. But of course I know what you're trying to say, and it's kind of funny watching you, conceptualize it. But yes, of course I know what you're trying to say. And number one, Source and I just didn't get together. We don't have tea on the daily or, monthly socials. I have my stuff. Source, whatever, has their stuff. That's up to them to negotiate their stuff. And I rock my own business. So in terms of how the decision is made or what is delivered to you at your quote-unquote door per se, that is the balance really of the universe coming into play. No one decided. We didn't flip a coin. We didn't have a contract. It just is. When the universe came into being, there had to be a balance. And whether that's a negative balance or a positive balance in each and every human in consciousness, that's up to them to decide. But that's essentially what we're getting into here. Yes.
There's so much I want to know. So you've told me about death and you told me about poverty. I can see those two playing a big part, especially poverty. People, I do get the whole, it's upsetting to watch sometimes, the whole Jones, keep up with the Joneses, and do I have enough of this and do I have enough of that? And social media being out there and telling, people what they should or shouldn't be to be successful, whatever that success is supposed to look like. What else are you using? What other fears are you using?
A big fave of late is definitely criticism. The fear of just being outcast, of having negative feedback or critical feedback passed your way. In this day and age, especially with social media, it's really easy to soak that up, Whenever someone has an anxiety attack or whatever, that's all me. I love it. It's great.
So what, you've gotten into the minds of these people who create social media and said, make sure you tell people that this is what they're supposed to look like and this is what they're supposed to eat and this is the ideal person and this is the... You did that?
Well, yes. But at the same time, it wasn't just those people, because I'm in everyone. So social media was created, let's say, but you decide what you post, and that lady and that guy, and they all decide what they post. So they decide what they think is the best, and then everyone kind of just accepts that, but also then compares it. This comparison, I love it. They compare it to what they have or what they've been doing or whatever it is. But by comparing, they're also criticizing themselves all the time. Well, that person went on a vacation and, oh, that looks so great, but I can't afford to go on a vacation, so I must be bad. Let's make it white and black, there's no gray. Or, wow, that person has a lot of money. I don't. That's bad. You do your own criticizing. You do your own comparing. I didn't just get into the minds of the people who created social media and these standards. Everyone does it for me all the time. It's beautiful.
I want to get into this everyone business very soon about who these everyones are, but let's just keep on going here. So criticism, yes, that's a big one. And people, I mean, they're criticized from the point that they're children with some families. I mean, I think the one thing that I always find interesting is that, you know, in my practices, when people come in and they say, my family is dysfunctional. And I don't know anyone who's ever said my family like was normal. Like, I don't actually know what I don't even know what normal is. I think normal is the abnormal, because what is normal? Is there a normal? Like, what would that even look like? And that's just a rhetorical question, but interesting. Just some thought for me. I'm thinking out loud now. So what would be another fear?
The family point you just brought up, like, my family is dysfunctional. Everyone's family is dysfunctional, and that's the beauty of it, for me at least. But this also brings up a good point about another fear that I use quite frequently that has to do with family, or it can, and that's the loss of love. You humans crave love, but you don't exactly know what to do with it when you've got it. Which is great, because then you're always losing it in some way, shape, or form.
Well, if we go back to the book written by Don Miguel Ruiz and The Mastery of Love, somehow people, somewhere along the lines, and I'm sure you had everything to do with this, so somewhere along the lines, they are looking for love outside of themselves, rather than looking at the love that they have within themselves. I mean, we've come from a place of love. That's where we were created. So if we come from a place of love, yeah, they're craving love. That's something that we need. We need that connection. But yet when people get into these relationships, you know, most of it is ruled by this fear that you've played in people's minds, that they're going to lose this thing that they've got, because then nobody will love them, because they can't find the love within themselves to love themselves. And I guess the question is, how did you take away the ability for people to love themselves, but they can love other people or claim to love other people?
Well, I didn't take it away, number one. You did that on your own, which is why it's so fascinating and easy for me to do what I do. I just have to plant the fear, and then you take it away. What folks do with it is their own business. But why it's so easy, and I think how it's played out, well, I know how it's played out over time, is that yes, you are, as a species, consumed with what everyone else thinks about you, what everyone else is doing, what everyone else is, and that takes the focus off yourself. And in that process, you forget that everything you need is within. I'm also within, and it's just me being a little bit louder, or a lot louder, on that side of the house, to spur you to always look for things outside to make yourself whole. You'll be looking for a long time, and it's really hilarious to watch, and great, because then I just I have control all the time.
And for someone who's so negative, it is astounding to me that you take so much joy, which is a positive feeling, how you take so much joy in watching people fall. Again,
And it might be difficult for you to conceptualize, because, you know, you've been spinning a little bit in the interview, and that's fine. That's fine. You got to get your thoughts out. Joy, for sure, is a positive emotion. But what? I can't be happy in the work that I do. I can't be proud of what I'm doing. The work is what really lights my fire, so to say. But when someone falls, well, I've laid maybe the groundwork. It's their choices and their actions that have caused them to fall. Everyone blames me for everything bad that happens, but they are responsible for their own choices and decisions at the end of the day. I just give some sort of alternative that maybe they latch on to, maybe they don't. But falling is on you. It's not on me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And yeah, I'm kind of flipping around like a fish. I've got a lot of stuff that I want to ask you, and that's why we're doing several episodes, which makes you unhappy, I know.
What do you mean several?
Oh, we'll be doing several episodes because I have way too many questions, as you can tell, and I'm sure our viewers do too. Now we're getting to the point where we're going to come in for another break. So I'm going to take us into this next break, and then we're going to be back because I want to know what the rest of those big fears are. So stay tuned, listeners, as I am here on Lighting Up the Devil with my queen, the devil, and the special series from A Master's Practice. Come back, and we'll see you soon.
The future of Internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Tune in to The Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything. I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor. If making my detox public is gonna help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Welcome back once again to Lighting Up the Devil, a special series of A Master's Practice with me, Dr. Aisha Hogan. Remember, I'm here every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So let's get back to chatting with the devil.
We've been talking about several things, but we sort of ended off with fears, right? We ended off with fears. So let's just touch on those again. So you talked about poverty, you talked about death, you talked about loss of love, and you talked about criticism. So is that it, or do you have any other favorites?
Well, even just hearing you list them off, like, I get really excited because I really like using those, and I just like hearing them. But yes, there are two others that I use most frequently. They're similar for some, depending on what stage you're at in your human life. So I'll bring them up together. But the last two I use are the fear of ill health and the fear of old age.
Okay. So are you saying, okay, let me just go with this. So I know when I'm, again, working with my clients, if they've built up a lot of negativity in their body, in that container, in a lot of cases it's coming out as mood disorders, or it's coming out as manifesting sickness in the body. What, that's you?
Again, yes, everything is me, but at the same time...
Wait a minute, everything is not you.
Well, come on. A lot of stuff is me, and for my purposes, yes. Like, I control 98% of the world's population, so...
I hate that number.
Well, I don't know what to say. But aside from it's true and it's awesome. But anyway, this negative, toxic either if it's mood disorders or a physical ailment, yeah, for sure that's me. And it might not be me that I'm doing it per se, but I planted this fear, and you're doing it to yourself. And that's it. It's easy work for me. You're afraid of everything.
And old age. Old age, well, yeah, I can see that. I mean, that comes right with that dying.
Of course, yes. And old age is quite cool because it's not just the fear of getting old. And I don't know if you've ever kind of gone for a walk maybe, or perhaps even with a family member. Some young folks are starting to do this now, and I really get a kick out of it. But it's when they see someone who's not able to do something that they are currently able to do. Whether that's have a conversation or remember something or run, around the block. And all of a sudden they're overcome with this fear of getting old. And I love watching it. It's so easy because it's always right in front of you.
But all of those things create, what you're talking about is beliefs. It's about the beliefs that they're planting into their subconscious. Are you feeding off those beliefs, or are you the cause of those beliefs?
Well, you're quite good. I'll tip my metaphorical hat because I don't, sometimes I wear a hat, sometimes I don't, but whatever. I'll tip that to you. And I both feed them and I am the cause. I celebrate in these beliefs because once you have a belief planted, that's almost like a habit. It's in there. It takes more time and energy to shake. So I am doing my little dance that it's in there and rooted inside your self-conscious. Am I the cause of those beliefs? Technically, yes, because of the fears that have led to them.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk about one more point today and maybe another, but we'll see. The 100th monkey syndrome. So for those of the listeners who haven't heard about this, I'm going to give you this quick story. And on an island somewhere, there are some scientists, and this is an actual test, and I should have really looked it up because I can't remember the island. But they are doing a test out there, and they're looking at all kinds of monkeys. They were actually observing these monkeys in their natural habitat, and notice that these monkeys, you've got me very flustered today. I have to say, I can't even form a sentence just having you in this area with me. All right.
It's good.
So they're on this island, and they're watching the natural habitat of these particular monkeys, and these monkeys are eating sweet potatoes. But as they're pulling the sweet potatoes out of the ground, of course, they're covered with dirt, and monkeys like us don't want to eat dirt. So they're eating them and spitting out the dirt, and it doesn't look like a very enjoyable process for those scientists that are watching the monkeys. Then a few monkeys get smart, and they decide to wash the sweet potatoes, and others around them notice how much easier it makes it to eat them, and one by one, the monkeys begin to start washing their sweet potatoes before they eat them. But they're watching the numbers rise in the monkeys before anything big really happens, and it's like, 60 monkeys are doing it, 75 monkeys are doing it now, 90 monkeys are doing it, 99 monkeys are doing it. But something happened when it became 100 monkeys. So 100 monkeys started doing this, and then the whole species, it's like that information was fed to the collective consciousness, and then all monkeys of that species, whether they were on that island or the surrounding islands, began to wash their sweet potatoes before they ate them. I'm seeing a little worry on your face. You know where I'm going with this right now. Okay, so does that mean, because we are in a time when more and more people are becoming awakened, where more and more people understand that there's so much more going on than what we see, and they're starting to walk into their light and stand in their power. That's why I kind of have a trouble with this 98% number. But is there a percentage now where we as humanity, is this the shift? As we as humanity begin to wake up, so to speak, more and more and more? And maybe is it 60% of humanity? Is it 45% of humanity? How many of us have to wake up before we tip the scales for all of our species?
Well,
don't stall. I have a talisman.
All right. There is no tipping point for humanity as I see it, as I know humanity in the world today. Sure, you're walking in your light, and let's make it about you, shall we? You're walking in your light, and maybe some of your clients are starting to walk in their light, but you'll never get rid of me. I can't just be tipped away. I am not the dirt on a sweet potato, let me tell you. So even if humanity does start to become more awakened and it becomes 50% or 60%, well, number one, I'll just work harder. And I like a challenge, believe me. I'm never just going to shy away into my own darkness. I thrive in every atom and every energy field there is. But even if that happens, humans, I know, will always have moments of self-doubt, of wonder if they really are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Very few people, and this is why it's 98%, which I know you don't like, but I like it, so it's true.
It's not about liking. I think it's more like I'm questioning that percentage. I think that maybe at some point it was that number, but I don't know that it's that number anymore.
Well, I suppose you'll have to do a little bit more research then, but it's that number, hands down. I'm very proud of it. I'd love the 100, but you know, you do what you can for the most part, and I'm doing what I can. But this tipping point business, every human is also individualized, and with the monkeys on those islands and the collective conscious, as you said, human beings, I think, well, I know, want to have this spirit of togetherness for those that are starting to become awakened and walk in the light. But at the same time, and it's fascinating as a species, you all want to be individual. You celebrate your own individual triumphs and achievements. So therefore, even if there was to be this collective consciousness with humanity, it would take a long time to get there, because so many of you, the majority of you, are consumed by being the best you can be individually. And that's why, you know, I'm not really concerned with this tipping point percentage business. Could it happen? I can't see it happening.
Well, you know, you say this, and yet on your face, I'm starting to see a little bit of worry, because there's something that you've said here or alluded to that actually wouldn't be the case. But nice try. And that is, if we actually tipped, part of being awake is knowing that there is some part of us that is living a purpose and a lesson, but that we are connected to each other. So that feeling of this need for individuality begins to diminish, because yes, we have our own lessons in this body, but we also know that we are part of something bigger, and that we are all connected and we are all one. So if that tipping point happens, that just means that everybody's going to know that. And wouldn't that just make you cease to exist?
Absolutely not. Cease to exist. Shame on you. Cease to exist. What the? We've already established... Nope, I'm ranting. We've already established that I am part in balance, whatever you want to call it, with this higher power, light and dark. So no, I will never cease to exist. As more people become awakened, sure, maybe I take a back seat for a little while, but I'm always there. No one's going to be perfect in their decisions or remain awake in every decision that they make or every action that they take in their life. Cease to exist.
I think this is worrying you, this particular topic. Maybe you don't cease to exist, but maybe your strength is taken away. Maybe that part of you that actually gets to access people's brains, you just won't have that power anymore. You'll be there as part of this positive, negative in energy, but you won't actually have any power.
Maybe. Not. I wouldn't say I'm worried, because there's
you look worried.
Well, I look how I look, I suppose, but there's talking about it and there's doing it. So for sure, you can talk about this tipping point. You can bring up this little monkey story if you want, but there's talking the talk and there's walking the walk. And anyone can read these books and these teachings or have a session with you or whatever it is. But it's believing, and it's then walking that walk every day in every moment of their lives. So am I worried that, now that we've put this tipping point business into the open, that it could happen? No, because you've got to walk that walk. And people stumble a lot, and I'm there.
So just an observation on my point, from my point of view here. Does the devil have a voice in his head? Because for the first time, I'm sitting here like, where is the sauciness? Because there is a little bit of fear there. And interesting. But I'm not going to make you talk about that, because I could, but I won't. And it feels real. I can see where you like this power thing, because just me having this talisman and making you, talk about whatever I want like a puppet, it kind of feels good. So I could see that. But I think my feeling good is a little bit different, because I want to actually educate the world and let them know that being a free thinker is going to be in their benefit. Where you just want to stifle their free thinker. You don't want them to be able to think for themselves without you.
Well, what fun would that be?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be no fun.
So I want to talk a little bit now about, you had mentioned or indicated before, and we'll get a little bit into it right now, but you indicated before that you have helpers. Now, I know social media helps you. I know that's a big help for you. But let's just name off some of these other helpers that you have.
Like, you want the list?
Well, I'd like a little bit of a list.
The
Yep.
Rolodex? Is that the way here?
Not their names, but just the type of people that they are. Because when we do the second episode, I would like to really sort of get into the meat of it. But right now, I'd like you to sort of open up that door and let us know, because that's another one of your tricks.
Yep. No, you're right. Talisman. Flippin' talisman. You're absolutely right that social media is a helper. And it's a big one today. In terms of my other helpers, well, they're people or things in power.
People or things in power. So are you saying like the leaders of our countries?
Could be.
Are your helpers?
Sure. Why not?
Well, I don't know what to say to that. Aren't they supposed to be there to help us? Although, knowing politics, and I do stay away from it, they're not always in our highest and best benefit. So what? You've put them in power? You've put them into power?
Again, it's not just me here, but at the same time, yeah, it's me. So I've laid the foundation for these people to come into power. And we can do current folks in power or past dictators or horrendous leaders in power. But it's the people that have made the choice to put them in power or allowed them to take power in some way. So yes, I've laid the groundwork, but it's you who've done the work. It's you who've made the choice, taken the action.
So people need to understand that they have free will. I mean, we talk about free will, but I don't think that they understand that they actually have it. They're making choices, but they're making your choices. The one thing that I've noticed in my work is that people don't distinguish the difference between you and them. Yet they do know the difference between themselves and source. They have difficulty believing that they are connected to source, but somehow they believe that you that are in their head is them.
Well, that's the whole point. It's about that connection, as you say. And while they might believe that I'm there, but this source rubbish is not, that's again their choice. They've made the call.
So those of you that are listening out there, understand that the voice in your head is not you. If you can hear it, it's not you. It's my queen sitting over here that makes you think that that voice is your free will, and that voice is not your free will. I'd like to think of it a little bit more. You remember in the older days, a little while ago, there was these pictures of the angel and the devil on someone's shoulder. And I mean, really, technically, if you think about it, that's kind of what it is, right? Because they have that free will, which is them. They have this wonderful energy that's inside them, this light that's inside them that they can't see in most cases. And then they have you.
When you say it like that, you know, it doesn't sound very great, but at the same time, you're right. It's not a cartoon, angel and devil on your shoulder, but everything resides in everyone at all times. What they decide to do with it is, yes, their choice, but it's a balance, and they decide what they want to do with it.
All right. So I want to thank you for joining me, not that you had a choice, for this interview today, and we will be back with other episodes because there's so many of your tricks that I really, really do want to show to the world and how you manipulate them.
But I want to thank you all for joining me and my queen. Ugh, I can't believe I have to say that. So joining me and the devil on the first episode in this special series of Lighting Up the Devil from a Master's Practice with me, Dr. Aisha Hogan. We will have more interviews coming up with the devil the last Monday of the next few months. And of course, you can join me every Monday on a Master's Practice at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to have you back.